Hello, everybody. Welcome to the official book launch of Work, Passion, Life Balance. My new book is officially released today. I'm really excited to have this party, and I'm looking forward to interacting with you as much as possible. So if you do start seeing this and it's live, put some comments in. Let's shoot some comments back and forth. Love to learn who's watching and who's on this live performance. So thank you again for joining, and I'm really excited about this opportunity. So we're going to talk a little bit about the book, going to talk a little bit about what inspired the book, and then more importantly, we're going to do some thank yous, like I mentioned before in those previews, just to kind of thank everybody for influencing my life, and we'll go from there. So so I'll just give everybody a few seconds to join, and then we'll get started. So I'll just relax. But today is May 12th. Great day for a lot of reasons. One of them is that it's the book release day. So really excited, a little bit nervous, but hopefully it'll go well. So just wait for a little bit, a few people to join in, and once you're there, just send where you're coming from. I am luckily joined in by my daughter, Hannah, my wife, Laura, and our new addition, Nathan. Nathan is 3 months old. Hannah is 2 years, 3 months old. And I'm very thankful for my family. So thank you very much for being here and being a part of everything. And my family has been an inspiration for the book. That's an inspiration for how I live my life. And ultimately, I tell a lot of stories, which Laura, I think, was a little bit surprised about all the stories. But it's really about my life experiences, good, bad, and ugly. Hopefully, you can learn from it and enjoy along the way. So, but I think it's
happy birthday, Buck.
Happy birthday, Buck. Dada, what am I doing?
Yeah, you're on camera. Say hi.
Say hi. Hi, everybody.
All right, sounds good. It's time for Hannah's nap time. So, all right. And
say bye,
Daddy. Hannah wants that. Hannah just loves the camera, apparently. So, and then last but not least, my trusty dog, which you might have seen in our pictures. This is Millie. Millie is turning 6 next week. So she was reading the book, as you can see from my my pictures that I submitted. And she enjoyed it. She gave it 4.5 barks review because it didn't talk enough about squirrels, which is her favorite topic. So very good. Let me just close the door and I'll be right back. All right. Very good. All right, so we are live on Facebook and on Google. These videos will be stored later as well for future references as well. But so I wanted to start by saying who I am, who am I, why should you buy the book, where can you buy the book, and then I'll jump into a little bit about the book. So my name is Matt Kalinsky, and if I have met you before, thank you for joining. If I haven't met you before, I'm looking forward to hopefully getting to know you through social media and maybe even meeting in person someday. I was born in Chicago, a south suburb called, actually I was born in South Bend, but raised in Crestwood. So if you're from Crestwood, give us some shout outs on the live stream. Raised by Scott and Cheryl Kalinsky. Thank you very much for everything you've done for me. And I have one brother, one sister, Andrew and Nikki. And so both of them have, I've known them their entire life, surprisingly, which is the best part about having a brother and a sister. So went to Incarnation, Marist High School in Chicago, went to medical school, Midwestern University, and I did a double residency in internal medicine and pediatrics. After residency, I became a hospitalist physician. One of the things that entitles is talk about the title of the book, Work, Passion, Life Balance, is I've took a lot of my experiences from not only going to med school, but also starting businesses. So I've started a lot of businesses over the years. My first business was Handy Mats. It was a painting service. It was a handyman service. I've painted ceilings, just whatever, to do whatever it took to make some money in the summers. And that led also to a couple staffing companies. One was Superior Business Staffing, which I started in undergrad at Loyola University, Chicago. And then the other one was USA Staffing Services, which is a company I still run today. Actually, it was 10 years ago in April when I started USA Staffing Services. So this whole experience has been really tied up into the 10 years of running USA Staffing. I started writing the book last year in January, and I'm launching it today. So it kind of ties in with about 10 years worth of running a business and growing it throughout the last decade. I've also been an investor in other businesses as well. And one of the most recent startups I did was a Lane Finder, which was an app-based recruitment tool that trucking carriers can use and truck drivers can use, and it helps match each other and really streamline the recruiting process for Lane Finder. So the most recent business is MC Towing. Shout out to Michael Christensen. He's working Pinellas and Hillsborough and Pasco counties as a towing company. So shout out to Michael Christensen there. But anyway, the book takes all of my experiences, all of my failures, as much as I could, and wraps them all up into essentially a life lesson of how to balance your life. And the whole idea of work-life balance is something that I never agreed with. Was it work or life? And I never really found it to be an or statement, work-life balance. I started thinking about this a couple of years ago when I was talking about how when I would work on USA Staffing or any of my businesses as an entrepreneur, I didn't feel like I was working. I felt like I was more living, but it was called work. And so I didn't really like that. And so I created this philosophy called passion, and work-life passion is something that I really believe is good. And so I wrote the book, really giving a guidance of how to keep that balance. And so that's that. The book, here it is. It's right here. It was a really good feeling when I actually sent the final documents over to actually be published. That was about 8 weeks ago. So I didn't realize this, but when you work with a publisher, it's 8 weeks, and then you're like, okay, I'm done. When do I get the book? And then they were like, in 8 weeks from now. And it was a real rough time to wait. So it was good that they finally arrived a couple of weeks ago, and now they're officially shipping out for everyone who pre-ordered them today. I wanted to give a special thanks to 3 people who wrote reviews for the book: Naeem Hamdar, Nitesh Sapra, and Chris Kermitzos. Thank you very much for the kind words on the book. You guys can read it on the back cover and on the couple front pages. But you guys were inspirational to me, and I feel honored that you were able to give me some nice words of wisdom from that standpoint. So let's see who's joining us. Aunt Kathy, welcome, Aunt Kathy. Mom, thanks for coming. Sarah, thanks for coming. And Laura, of course, thank you for joining. Let's see who else is here. Mrs. Butler, thank you for coming, Mrs. Butler. Let's see, my dad. Thanks, Dad. Right. Who else is here? All right. So, all right. So as people keep coming in, just going to talk a little bit about it. So, a lot of times you have a in-person book release party, you invite people and friends and relatives, but without everything going on with COVID, I think this is a better solution. And really, it's just kind of meant to just give some good vibes. So let me just check and see if everything is going well. Hey, Nitesh. What's up? All right. Very good. All right. On to the book. So the book itself is broken down into 4 sections. And after the initial prologue of kind of the background story of who I am and why I wrote the book and why you should listen to me, first section is broken down, work plus passion plus life. And I break down those 3 areas, specifically talking about the relationships you have as in your work life, in your passion life, and in your living life or your life. And really, I'll break them down for you real quick. Work is really that relationship that's selfless. You're going to work on something means you're going to give of your time, your energy, your spirit, your emotion to somebody else. And sometimes that's for a paycheck. Sometimes that's for the benefit of saving a relationship, like a family member, a daughter, or mom or dad. But it also could be working on yourself. You're selflessly working on yourself, which is a little bit challenging. So if you think of those relationships in your life that are selfless, you're giving of yourself, that's what I kind of classify as work. In passion, it's the opposite. It's the selfish relationship you have with yourself. So it's very selfish centered. It's what are you going to do today to help yourself be happy? So it's going to be focusing on things that you do for happiness. For instance, reading a book. The book doesn't have feelings, but you get benefit out of reading the book. Gardening, although some may say plants have feelings, but you garden for yourself and to make yourself better. You like looking at the flowers or the garden. My parents just recently planted their vegetable garden, and so you do that. And then the life part is that mutually beneficial relationships, really where it's a give and take. Sometimes it may be a little bit lopsided, but in general, if you look at the scope of the whole relationship, it's a give and take relationship where you get to give and receive. And so I talk about how to live, with those relationships in mind. The key to the book is actually in the second section. So I think you should read the whole book, but the key is in the second and third sections. The second section is about the zones of efficiency. And the zones of efficiency are really are the overlap between circles. So if you can see on here, it's a Venn diagram. There's some other diagrams in the book as well. The Venn diagram, the 3 circles. Anytime 2 circles overlap, that's what I call a zone of efficiency. And efficiency and effectiveness are always 2 core values I've had ever since I was in high school. I always thought in terms of what is efficient and what is effective. And every business I've started, it's all about efficient and effective decision-making. People bringing into the business, are they efficient and effective in what they're doing? And so those zones of efficiency are really what make the idea that there's 3 circles, but there's also 3 zones of efficiency where anytime 2 circles are overlapping, that is called a zone of efficiency. That means that you're able to do something and have it affect 2 areas of your life. And a couple of examples is if you're working and you have friends at work. And so when you go to work and you're interacting, you have some interactions on a social friendship level of where it's mutually beneficial and you're working hard for that paycheck. Or if you're working on a self task of some other time and it overlaps with one of your passions or hobbies, that also works well in terms of overlapping zones of efficiency. For me, when I joined Entrepreneur Organization of Tampa, which is a global organization, and most of this book reflects on my interactions with EO, Entrepreneur Organization, I found that my passion of entrepreneurship mixed with mutually beneficial relationships, including people in my forum. I'd like to, while I'm there, I'll shout out to my forum, Adam, Nitesh, Naeem, Jonathan, Jen. You guys are awesome. Thank you very much for everything you've done for me. But in general, I found a group of people that shared my passion and encouraged me to do encouraged me to be better. And so it was both a selfish as well as mutually beneficial interaction. And that was a zone of efficiency for me. And I gave a couple of other examples as well. The third section of the book is called the zone of life satisfaction. And the zone of life satisfaction is really the middle of the circle. So if you could see there, right in the middle, where all 3 circles overlap. And that isn't something you can force. What happens in my experience is that the more overlap you have between any 2 circles, naturally the middle circle is going to grow larger. And so I talk about that area specifically. If you wanted to measure how satisfied you are with your life in a Venn diagram, draw those circles and really understand that the middle section of that is really the more overlap with any 2 areas, you're going to have a bigger zone of satisfaction, of life satisfaction. And so it's something that you have to work on peripherally. You have to get the circles together, but you don't have to work on all 3 circles at once. You can work on any 2 circles at one time and it overlaps together to grow it. So if you're struggling with balance in life or not satisfied with life, think about it in terms of breaking down the elements of the 3 core aspects. And then the last section is my experience with entrepreneurship. So if you are an entrepreneur, if you're thinking about it, or if you wanted to just learn, what is entrepreneurship, entrepreneurship is one of my passions, but also being a physician is my passion. So I talk about how you can have multiple passions and how I balanced them all together. So that's the book in a nutshell. So we'll take a quick look to see who else is here. Let's see. Mary Claire, welcome, Mary Claire. Let's see who else is here. Anybody else? Yeah, got a couple people rolling in. So if I don't see you, I apologize, but send me a message. Make sure that you get known. I'd love to send a shout out to you through the waves of the internet. So on this live broadcast. Okay, we are 15 minutes in. I scheduled it for an hour, but obviously probably won't be a full hour in that case. So next part of the book release is going to be talking about thank yous. And so I wanted, if you're on this live video and you're from some of these areas or relationships that I've mentioning on here, please go ahead and give a shout out online on the Google Live, on the YouTube Live, or on Facebook Live, but however you're watching this. But I wanted to specifically just talk about the influences in my life and how it got to this book. And really, I think of this as part of my life story. Every interaction I've had up until this point is something that has been reflected in this book. And so if you are part of my life and you received an if you received an invite to this event, there's a reason. And it's because you've had influenced in my life. And so wanted to just start by saying, if you're from Crestwood, Crestwood was this great community. I couldn't have wished for a better community to grow up in. Crestwood, I played baseball, I played soccer. My brother and sister and I made a lot of friends in Crestwood. And while it was a small community, everybody, looked out after each other. And still today, it's nice to kind of touch base with people who grew up in Crestwood. And if you're from Crestwood, send out a little message here. I went to Incarnation, as I mentioned. So I played basketball there. So K-8, all my teachers, Sister Adrian, Sister Leah, all my teachers that influenced me at a young age. Thank you very much for everything you've done for me in those years. At Marist High School, Chicago, south suburbs of Chicago, all boys school when I went. Now it's co-ed. But thank you for all the teachers who influenced me through there. Coach Nolan for basketball coach. Thank you. I also played cross country, track, and volleyball. If you were on the volleyball team that won state, I was not. But my year, the seniors did win state. So congratulations again. But, thank you for all the coaches and teachers who influenced me while my time was at Marist. Loyola University. So if you're from Loyola, if I know you from Loyola, go Ramblers. That was the most fun, inspirational time of my life. I had opportunity to go to Rome. So there's a big Rome group that, is just amazing. I give my shout out to my closest friends who I all met at Rome. So I'm going to give you guys a special shout out. Chayton, Kevin, Pete, Mandy, Amanda, Teresa, Kristen, Claudia, Katie, Kate. If I missed you, I apologize. But you guys are amazing friends. Thank you very much for everything you've done for me from that. Dr. Pickett, if you're watching, thank you for allowing me to research in your lab. It was because of that research, I think, that I was able to eventually get into med school. And I apologize if I ruined any experiments or wasted any unneeded supplies, but I do appreciate the lessons you've taught me there. I was in a fraternity, Sigma Alpha Epsilon. Any brothers here online? Phi Alpha. But anyway, thank you very much for teaching me all about fraternity life, and been a great time with that. Went into med school, Midwestern University. I'd like to give a special shout out to Shilpan, Jen, Marie, and Chris for being an inspiration to me and helping, the four of us really kind of helped each other get through med school. And, I couldn't have done it without you guys. Thank you very much. Shilpan, you're in this book a couple times. So make sure you pick up your copy and read it. Talk about our discussions we'd have when we were studying med school about the business of medicine. And so it's a good little section. Also from med school, Corey, Brent, Courtney, Alice, and Megan, thank you very much for being inspirations to me during med school. I went to Freighter and Children's for MCW for residency. My residency class, all the med peds people, thank you very much. I definitely felt a niche when I joined residency there. Balancing internal medicine and pediatrics was something that definitely spoke to me. But I want a special thank you to my residency class, Jillian, Julie, Emily, Nakaya, and Carla. Thank you very much for being inspiration to me throughout residency. I always tried to live up to your standards, and thank you for accepting me for who I am. Dr. Toth, and special shout out to Steve. For anyone who doesn't know, Steve was the one that actually gave me my nickname, which is Nitro. So if anyone knows or didn't know, my nickname is Nitro. Feel free to use that when messaging me. And the funny story to that is there were 4 Matts in my residency program. And so when I got accepted, there was some confusion about which Matt everybody was talking to. And so the upperclassmen, the residents, decided to have a gladiator name. And so it was going between Turbo and Nitro, and ultimately Nitro won. And that has stuck with me for the past 10 years. So feel free to call me Nitro if you want. Let's see. Last part of my phase is that when we moved down to Tampa 5 years ago, I asked Laura, who was my girlfriend at that time, hey, you want to move to Tampa? And she said yes. And so that was the first big commitment that we made to each other in terms of moving down to Tampa. A year later, I did propose, but it was a great experience. I moved down here mainly because of my business partner, Mark Curtis. We've been partners since 2013, and he was stationed down here, and we ended up moving the headquarters when we merged our companies. And so we built a strong team. Today's team is amazing. I want to give a special shout out to USA Staffing's team: Shane, David, Jared, Lisa, Sandra, Yvonne, Ramiko, Glenda, everybody on the USA team in general, anyone who has interactions with us. I just enjoy everything. I shout out to all of our authorized dealers who have been an influential component of our company. 2 years ago, I was a co-founder of Lane Finder, and so there's a great team there in place. And the developers are amazing, and the app is amazing. If you're a truck driver, or if you know a truck driver, make sure they download the app, lanefinder.com. But special thank you for teaching me how to be a better person, to Matt, Magnus, Patrick, Christian, Henrik. Thank you for everything you guys do. Last but not least, I'm going to thank you for our neighbors. So when Laura and I purchased our first house, which is the one we're in right now, thanks to COVID, but we were doing this out of my house, and the neighbors I have, I couldn't be more impressed. You guys have taught me what it means to be a good neighbor. And you put up with us as our learning curve of owning a new house, and the weekends of working on it, and sanding and painting and all the projects we do. So thank you to Jeff and Michelle and Kevin and Natalie and Julia, John. Thank you very much for everything you guys do. And thank you for being great neighbors to us. That's that. Let's just take a look and see if there's any. Hey, Mandy, how you doing? Hey, Dad. Hey, Shane, thanks for joining. All right, let's see. Andy, I have a question from Andy. Would you be able to comment on how you have, that's Siri, comment on how you have continued to maintain such an impressive drive towards success in your personal and business pursuits? Great question, Andy. That was not staged. Really, it came down to the fact that when you incorporate passion into your life, that passion drove me harder than anybody else. Any employer, any boss, any teacher, nothing compares to the amount of pressure I put on myself to perform. But it wasn't a pressure that was negative or suffocating. It was more of a pressure, a drive, an internal drive to be successful. And I have countless stories of taking sales calls in the hospital while on call, in between my pager going off in a closet. But I was able to close the deal. And so if Travis is here online, Travis knows those stories. But, having the pager go off in the background of running a business is kind of a funny story in and of itself. But it was one of those things that I actually talk about the dark side of having a passion. Passions are both good and bad, but you have to control them. And the dark side of passion is really where you get that uncontrollable sensation, and you have to control it. And so when I was spending 12 hours in the hospital and another 8 hours working on the business, that only leaves 4 hours of dedicating to family relationships, friend relationships. And so, that was one of the big downsides of my first marriage, in terms of not being, it wasn't, I wasn't putting any time into it. And so I lost it. I was off the edge. I let it get the best of me in a lot of ways. And so not keeping it in balance was really a reason for this book, and that I let it overcome me, and you can't do that. And so I had to learn over time to balance it out and dedicate time for family, dedicate time for life, and really understand that while it can push you over the limit, but allow it to move within you as much as possible. So great question, Andy. Thank you. Any other questions? Nikki, you're here. Thanks for joining, Nikki. Jen, how's Cruise Cellars doing? Big shout out to Cruise Cellars. They're reopening this week. Can't wait to get my reservation for Cruise Cellars in Tampa. All right, very good. The last section of the book I mentioned is entrepreneurship. And so, anybody here on the, interested in learning about entrepreneurship in general, you should definitely read the book. Talk about the different types of entrepreneurship. There's 3 main types that I talk about in the book, and you have to read more to find it. So. Okay, it's about 30 minutes in, and what I would like to end with is a little bit of a reading, just one little section that I think sums up the book very well. And then you guys should all go out, buy your book wherever you buy online books. It's available via Kindle, so you can buy your Kindle version or your ebook version. But if wherever you buy it online, you should buy it there. I have not set up my website to take orders. I think it's it's one of many things that on my list of things to do. But having a 3-month-old, you have to prioritize what you can do in a single day. So it's been a little hectic here, to say the least. But you should get your copy. It should be available today. And we're going to be working on an Audible version in the near future. So that will be coming down the line. So if you haven't been to my website, it's MatthewKolinsky.com. I also put my blogs up. You can follow me on social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, my YouTube page. Feel free to connect with me, follow me for latest updates on everything related to work, passion, life, but also, life in general. Everything has changed with COVID, and this is a time to really keep on learning. And I want to share as much knowledge as I can with everybody who follows me. So David, thank you, David. All right. I appreciate your kind words. Thank you very much. All right. So I'm going to read, first off, my first section I would like to read is the dedication. You guys will all be able to read when you get your book. This book is dedicated to Hannah and Nathan, my 2 kids. May you both have a truly magnificent life ahead of you. And I do mean that. My acknowledgements are going to be the next page. I purposely wanted my acknowledgements up front because I'm eternally grateful for everybody who's been influential. But I want to send a specific shout out or acknowledgement. I would like to acknowledge my parents for providing opportunities to explore my many passions, and specifically my grandma for being a role model on how to truly live a fulfilled life. I would also like to acknowledge my EO Forum. Thank you guys for continuing to support me in all areas of my life and for constantly pushing me to be the best version possible. Most importantly, I would like to acknowledge my wonderful wife, Laura, who continues to be an amazing, supporting, and loving person, and who followed me to Tampa as I explored my passion for entrepreneurship. So that is the opening acknowledgement and dedication for the book. And the chapter I wanted to read was chapter 8. I have a little bookmark. Got lots of books. Make sure you put your orders in. All right. So chapter 8 is it's a chapter called Keeping Your Equilibrium. There you go. There's the circles for all of you who don't have your book yet. And so I'm going to just read a little bit and then we'll kind of wrap it up. And again, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Lisa, for coming. Thank you. My mom is asking, what actor or athlete inspired me? Of course, you know this. Actor, well, athlete or actor. So athlete, Michael Jordan, MJ all the way, number 23. Definitely been the go-to inspiration there. Actor-wise, I don't think an actor inspired me. But obviously, Top Gun was my favorite movie, which you know because you're my mother. But thank you for asking the question. All right, here it goes. The zone, this chapter is called Keeping Your Equilibrium. The zone of life satisfaction is symbolic of how balanced your life is based on the three attributes of work, passion, and life. Imagine you are a waiter carrying a tray with 3 plates of different sizes full of food. If the plates were spread out on the edge of the tray, it would become very difficult to balance while walking through the restaurant, and a small tilt in the wrong direction could send the plates flying off the tray. However, if the plates were close to the center of the tray, the waiter would have more control over it and would have more control maneuvering through the crowded restaurant. Similarly, the larger the zone of life satisfaction, that middle section of the 3, the more stable your life will feel. It's worth noting that the goal should never be complete overlap. That's impossible. As each zone has its own characteristics that require a specific balance. Here is the trick, as discussed in section 2. The only way to grow the size of the zone of life satisfaction is to grow the 3 zones of efficiency, which I mentioned are the overlap between the 2, because it is in overlapping the individual components that the opportunity to grow the balance of all 3 occurs. I would like to share a story that highlights this rule, and I talk about a trip that my EO forum took to the zoo, and that was with Naeem and Krista and their families, and how it was the interaction of the families mixed with EO forum, mixed with talking a little bit of business and entrepreneurship. That was the pinnacle of balance for me. I was spending it with my family. I was getting to know their families. We talked about the EO experience in terms of just kind of getting to know each other better and deeper on a personal level. And then, of course, we talked about business because that's what make it a good thing. So that was the section I wanted to read. And then the next page is the 6 keys to work, passion, life balance. So I talk a little bit about 6 different lessons I've learned to help with that, with keeping the balance. So that was my book reading, and thank you again. Seems like it's been a journey that I'll always remember. I started this journey January 2019, ended it recently around January of 2020, and I'm so happy that I was able to share this experience with you. And please pick up your copy. If you have any questions or you want to connect on a deeper level, I'd love to hear your thoughts about the book. If you want to go deeper on any topics about the book, I'm happy to explore and talk further. But thank you again for everybody. I really appreciate it. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anybody because there were so many people who influenced me in general. And if I did miss you, I apologize. I'll probably think of a few people that I missed. But again, thank you for everything. God bless, and continue to live your life as best possible. Work, passion, life balance by Dr. Matthew Kalinsky. Thanks.